How's it going, YouTube? Kevin Cleary here with a knife review for you. And again, this is not the view from the pew. I want to talk today about this Crkt knife, which is actually a pretty cool knife. I've been playing with it for a while here, and it is the V.A.S.P. V-A-S-P. Stands for Verify, Advance, Secure, Proceed. Now, I did look a little bit around on Google to see where that acronym comes from, and I couldn't find anything. So if you're in law enforcement or military or something and you can inform me, that's great. Leave a comment below. But it could be that Crkt just made the name up. It doesn't really mean anything. And I wonder if that may be the case because advance and proceed are kind of saying the same thing. So normally acronyms stand for different stuff. Anyway, that's the name of it. It is a Todd Jernigan design, which is probably the thing to remember more so than the particular name of it. And so if you Google like Crkt and Todd Jernigan or Crkt and V.A.S.P, you can probably find this. You won't find it in YouTube videos, which is one of the reasons I'm putting this one together. I had other videos that I wanted to make first and some that I already have made and just haven't put up yet. But I wanted to get this one out there because there's just nothing. It is new for 2014, and we're only in April, so I'm sure some things will, people will start to catch on a little bit. So some specs on the knife. It's 8 1/4 inches long when it's open. The blade length, this is important to notice, is 3.71 inches, so bigger than that 3.5 inch blade length that is important for some parts of the country or some parts of the world where that 3.5 inches seems to be the magic number. 8CR 14 MOV steel, drop point blade, and I do have the serrated version. It comes in a plain edge as well. I thought these serrations didn't look too bad, so I'd give them a try. Normally I'm not a fan of serrations, but we'll see what happens. I haven't had any issues yet, and at the same time, they've cut what I've wanted them to cut. I haven't been saying to myself, oh man, I'm so glad I had these serrations. So it's kind of personal preference there. Anyway, the handle scales are G10, which is quite nice, and of course they come in this tan color. There's just this color variation, nothing else. The blade centering is very good, at least on mine it's good. The deployment is fantastic, and the lockup is pretty good, although it can maybe be just a little further engaged. That's okay. I know that'll change over time. Certainly I don't feel uncomfortable or worried that the knife is going to close on me or anything like that. Not in the least. Deployment is great. There is that thumb ramp. It's some jimping on it. And here's the other thing I want to talk about in terms of deployment. The thumb hole or the deployment hole is kind of a fail. And let me just try to demonstrate for you. I don't know if you'll be able to tell that well on film, so I'm going to try to make it work. And it is functional, but barely. My take is that a deployment hole should help you to deploy the blade. This one doesn't really do that. It's really awkward to get to, rather uncomfortable to use. It really needs to be moved down the blade a 1/4 of an inch or a 1/2 inch. But anyway, there it is. It's kind of a fail. But the deployment is so great anyway that that's not really a big issue for me. I just won't use the deployment hole. No problem. It's a liner lock, as you probably already noticed. And the cost on this is, if you're down in the US, $35. If you're here in Canada, about $42 or $43. And that's par for the course if you are on this side of the border. So that kind of gets all the major stuff out of the way. I didn't mention the lanyard hole, and you could probably get some 550 cord through there, but it'd probably be a bit of a tight fit. So not too bad. The things that I want to say about this, and the reason I think this is kind of a cool blade, are first, its weight. It only weighs 4 ounces, and yet, man, you've got almost a 4-inch blade there. You've got this great big blade in what I perceive, or what I feel like is a pretty small package. Now, the pocket clip is only one position, but the strength of it is ideal. It goes in and out of pocket very, very well, and it's a pretty low ride in the pocket. So it's kind of got those two things going for it, although it is only single position, and I know for some of you that's going to be an issue. The other cool thing is that this is a flipper knife that doesn't look like a flipper. you know, you'd look at it and at first glance you go, oh, that's not a flipper. But sure enough, there's this little tab here, and if you just push on the tab, there you go. That was a kind of a bad deployment on my part. But by the way, it did lock up, so that's good to know. But it turns out that it is a flipper. And there we go. That's better. And it works out really, really well. This is one of those knives you're going to want to play with all day because the deployment is so cool. So I like that it's got that little flipper tab, and yet it works as good as or even better than some of those full-size flippers that I've got in my drawer. So I really like the flipper design on this. I also like the overall look of the knife. It's definitely a knife that's doing a few things differently in terms of look and feel. I just really appreciate, you know, the blade shape is just a little different. The handle coloring and shape is a little different. It's got a few things that you want, like that thumb ramp, but it's just different. And I really appreciate that. The balance is good, even though you can see there's a lot of blade per handle there, and yet the balance is still really good. And so because it's a very comfortable knife, because it's a fairly compact package for what I feel like is a fairly large blade, because it's got that look and feel that are, to me, fairly appealing, although I know that look may be not that appealing for some people, but I like that they're doing something just a little bit different, that they're trying to come up with something that, although it has all of the major qualities that we look for in a value folder, it's got just some different things going on that make it somewhat appealing as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, if you've noticed, it doesn't always, if you try to snap it closed, it can bounce out a little bit. You just got to maybe be aware of that. It doesn't always happen, by the way. It's only if you kind of really rough with it or if you got a weird angle on it. But there is the Crkt V.A.S.P, V.A.S.P. I've got to say, I recommend this knife. If you're a collector, I recommend it because it's doing some things different that you don't always see. If you're just a guy who wants to carry a pocket knife, this is a good combination of cost and function. And so again, that's kind of what you're looking for in a good pocket knife, right? You want to do what it's supposed to do at a reasonable price without being too inconvenient or too big or too heavy or any of that stuff. And I think the V.A.S.P achieves all of that and does it in a package that has a cool factor, that has a different creative factor to it. So my recommendation is, yeah, this is a cool knife. If you like the look and feel of it, then definitely buy it. You won't be disappointed. If that look just isn't what appeals to you, then you know, yeah, there's lots of other options that are available in a similar price point with similar qualities. But certainly, this is a knife that I'm glad to have in my collection. In the comments, go ahead and let me know what are some of the cool little things that you appreciate about a particular knife that you've got. You know, this is a good example because it's got this different flipper design that, you know, you're just not used to seeing, and yet it works extremely well. One of the best flippers I've seen in a while, even though it doesn't look like a typical flipper. So let me know some of the things you've noticed about a knife that you go, yeah, you know, they did this differently and it was just really cool. There you go, Crkt V.A.S.P. Gotta say, fairly highly recommended with a couple of those sort of limitations that I mentioned in the video. Have a great day.